Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Excited to have you today. Today, it's just going to be me. We're going to be talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And if you're any sort of sales leader, sales coach, sales practitioner, you know this topic. You might not know the name of it, but you definitely deal with it every single day. And the topic is limiting beliefs and unconscious limiting beliefs. If we're sales leaders, we need to face these all the time. What are our beliefs about our organization that we're not truly necessarily thinking through? As salespeople, we need to. And then we also help our prospects uncover their limiting beliefs. So it's something that's really important to understand and know about. And I'm going to dive in. There's a very cool paper that George Brontén did on this. He's a sales sage. He's awesome. He's the founder of Membrain. He's got a blog that's absolutely fantastic. But he wrote a white paper on this. I'll put the link to that in the comments here. But first, I want to start out with a quick story. And this is a story from well in my past. This is about, 16 years ago now, I think. And at that time, I had a company that we would hire, train, and manage teams, sales teams for other organizations. And we really hired a lot of people that it was their second job out of college. Maybe sometimes it was their first. Quite frankly, some never went to college. They just had worked other jobs and had shown a lot of promise in terms of sales. And our goal there was to really dive in. And since they hadn't had any bad habits put into them yet, is how do we cultivate the good habits? And how do we cultivate really where the things that we need to do on an ongoing basis to really knock it out of the park as a salesperson? The business was wonderfully successful. I developed incredible relationships and incredible team members across the board. And one comes to mind in terms of limiting beliefs. So years 2009, 2010, I think. And we had hired a gentleman. I believe it was his second gig out of college. And he came on with us, and his first 6 months were pretty rough. It was in one of our reviews together. I think we just had gone out to lunch. And we got started talking about, hey, what do you think is holding you back? We got all over the board, and we talked because he had really good activity, had really good drive. He wanted to dive in and he wanted to be better. But we got down to one of the things that was holding us back, and he realized that he had this limiting belief. And he said, my talent, I am not as talented as these other team members. I just don't play on that same field as they do. I can't get in there and just make this natural. I'm not as talented in how in how I work. It's like I'm willing to put in the work, but I don't think I have the same level of talent. And so do I fit? And it had been limiting him in the effort that he was putting into his, like, he made the calls, but in terms of his effort to improve, it had been limiting him that. So we talked about that a little bit and dove in, and I don't take really any credit for this because I don't think it's mine to take. It was just a self-revelation. It was, he realized that was something that he was dealing with. And he came back a couple of weeks later. He finally said, I'm going to start to really invest in myself and figure this out. And he came back with a book, and the book was called Talent is Overrated. And he was like, Paul, I found this book. This is awesome. This is amazing. Like, why is it amazing? He's like, well, the things I do well actually can make me successful. And so if I just invest in the things I do well, I can knock this thing out of the park. Like, wow, that's a completely changed, it was just a completely changed mental state. I came from this, and it came from him simply realizing that this unconscious limiting belief was that he didn't think he had the talent to make an impact. And love that book. I'll see if I can link that book in the comments as well. But I believe it was written by a guy named Jeff Colvin. Jeff, if I'm mispronouncing your name and you hear this, please forgive me. So he dove into the things that he could control. He was really, really good at doing the work, at diving in and making the phone calls, at diving in and trying to ask the right questions. He wasn't necessarily great at asking the questions or the interaction, but what he took from that book is he could apply that same rigor in the work that he did to, okay, I'm going to pick up the phone and make it, to getting better at it. And so that was a limiting belief that he took away early in his career, and he has done fantastic. One of the hardest working people I've ever met. Absolutely awesome dude. And it was simply us uncovering this in a one-on-one that changed the trajectory. I think he would have got there anyways, but it changed the trajectory of his mindset that he could uncover success earlier. So what is a limiting belief? Well, first off, we're going to be talking about the ones that are truly core to us. Core beliefs are these things that we generally form in early childhood. They can develop later. They start to become identity-based beliefs, right? On the positive side, I am loved. On the negative side, I'm weak. I am a hypocrite. These things that may tie into your identity and your very core. And so let's look at the unsupportive kind. The unsupportive core beliefs are also called limiting beliefs. And why? It's because they limit your ability to find success and also look to fulfillment in that aspect of your life. So if you have a core belief that you're weak or that you'll never be strong, you may never bother to exercise in your life, right? This is a very sales one. Money is scarce, and money is something that is very hard to come by. You're likely going to have that as a limiting belief, and you're only going to purchase the things that are very inexpensive, right? If an organization starts to have that limiting belief, they'll limit their ability to purchase the right things by only buying the things that dive into their very small budget. Those are the type of things that are limiting belief. They tend to be self-protective. So unconsciously, we believe this thing about ourselves, then our actions tend to be protective. But the challenge with that is the limiting belief actually then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So again, if you go back to going to the gym or I am weak, limiting belief, the person that has a limiting belief and doesn't ever overcome it or dive into it, they'll probably go to the gym 3 times. They'll get sore. They'll look around them and say, everybody else is lifting a lot more than I am, and they won't go back to the gym. Same thing. The person that thinks that money is extremely scarce and so hard to make, they will likely reinforce that. They will settle for less in terms of their salaries, and they'll spend less, and they'll live that way. So they tends to become self-fulfilling prophecies. Now, there's really 3 types. There's 3 types of these limiting beliefs, and this is directly from George, but see if you can apply them to your own life. Oh man, should I get that vulnerable? Yeah, okay. Maybe even look to apply them to me, right? So the first is limiting beliefs about self. Limiting beliefs about, things like I don't deserve love. I had a 18, 19, 20. I had a rough time in life at that age, dealt with a lot of depression. Actually, that is one of the limiting beliefs that I had grabbed onto, is that I will never be enough, can never be enough, and I am not worthy of love. And so grabbed onto those limiting beliefs about the self. And the funny thing is about that limiting belief, and you're dealing with depression, you just dive into that in a big way, right? It becomes highly self-reinforcing. You hide under the blanket, and as somebody turns on the light, you think, oh man, I'm not worthy of the light. Let me put another blanket on. So that's the first one, limiting beliefs about self. The second is limiting beliefs about others. People can't be trusted, right? So you make large generalizations about others because of your experience in the past. People are always out to get me. They can't be trusted. So you probably behave in unsocial ways. And then the third is like limiting beliefs about the world in general. So There's limiting beliefs about self, limiting beliefs about others, and then limiting beliefs about the world. Making large generalizations that you just start to internalize. The world is a dangerous and scary place, for example. And I got a master's in communication, and I studied communication and psychology a lot in my long time ago. But one of the really interesting things about this, so people tend to form a lot of limiting beliefs about the world based on the media and where they consume it, right? So at that time, we looked at studies of like 50 and 60-year-old people that had watched local news and watched only the news that reinforced the fact that crime was rampant and the world was a terrible place and they couldn't leave their house. And those limiting beliefs about the world really made an absolute huge impact on them. We all experienced COVID. We all went through that. Whatever your reaction to that is, what's one side or the other, we all went through it. And there was limiting beliefs that were put on ourselves, on science, on faith, in every part of the world, right? We made mass, decisions based on limiting beliefs about the world. We didn't have enough information. And some people are still making those decisions today, right? So like that or hate that, it's just true. So limiting beliefs about self, limiting beliefs about others, limiting beliefs about the world are really the three types. Now, when we start to dive into a lot of these limiting beliefs that come up in sales, and let's just dive into the ones right now that are about sales and helping coach in sales. And there's a lot of these that any sales coach, any sales leader, or even any salesperson is going to see in their colleagues and in themselves. These are all things that really need to be challenged. Just like that initial story I told, you can pull out the talent that they have. You can pull out the I'm going to try it factor, right? I'm not too scared of this. I'm actually going to try it. And so here's some basic ones. You probably heard this if you're a sales coach. I wasn't born to be a salesperson. I just fell into this. This is really an unhealthy belief. And people that say this a lot and that keeps coming up is going to limit their ability to commit and their ability to learn new skills, right? Because this idea of I just wasn't born to be a salesperson. I just fell into this. Well, okay, so you're here now. What are we going to do with it? Another one generally starts early in a sales career, and because of bad training, it continues. But if you start having salespeople, I'm saying things like, I'm not experienced or smart enough or believable enough to talk to the executives. This is huge. And if you're a sales leader, you hear this all the time, or you see it, or you believe it about them because you haven't trained them well enough. But this is something that comes out as a massive belief about self. It's also a hugely limiting belief. Having that ability is the ability to dive in and understand. If you believe that's an intrinsic nature about yourself, that you're not believable or smart enough to talk to executives, you're likely not going to invest in the time to try to go out there. However, if you believe that you may be, or there's just a glimmer of hope there, you're likely to invest a lot more time into learning how that can happen. And this is ultimately the belief that I am not as good as somebody else because of what they've done, right? And that is the inherent belief about self that you're combating there. And if somebody is coming up with that as a continual theme, I just don't know how to talk to executive. I just don't know how to talk with them. I just don't have that experience with them. That is on an individual level. The coaching that you should be diving into is what do they truly believe about their identity and themselves, and help to do some reshaping there, because talking with executives is a skill. So those are some of the big sabotaging, limiting beliefs that you get in sales. There's some other ones. Dave Curlin initially started the work with this with Objective Management Group. And Ben Tego has continued it with Objective Management Group, and they do some amazing work on these beliefs about self, some beliefs about sales, about the nature of sales. One of the things is that they talk about is how people view money. And maybe the belief is I'm cheap, right? Or I can never earn enough. But that comes out in hugely in terms of things like pricing discussions, discounting, how people see their own value. If they don't see that they are valuable, they can never truly bring value to others, and they start to always discount. So those beliefs about self are huge. Now, second area, limiting beliefs that we see in salespeople. Let's go to that second category, beliefs about others. Well, here's a big one. And if you have anybody that's doing any sort of cold calling or outreach or anything like that, if they come up with a belief that people are easily annoyed, like everybody is so easily annoyed, and they're easily annoyed by questions, even if the questions are great ones, you're going to have a really big time having that salesperson be successful making outreach, right? And this is a huge limiting belief. And usually in coaching, I usually ask the question is, well, what is the risk that you are, what are you risking by making that call? If they're opening up and making a risk, well, they're going to get, and the answers are, well, they're going to get annoyed. They're going to get angry. Again, my question then starts to become, so what are you risking? What does that take from you if they get annoyed or angry or anything like that? And the answer is nothing. The answer is I control what they take from me. But most of the people that have that belief that people are easily annoyed, this also becomes a belief about self. I'm a bother, right? If that comes up, then you're going to have a very hard time ever building a pipeline. Again, beliefs about others. Nobody likes salespeople. Well, geez, there's a whole lot of movies out there. There's a whole lot of stuff out there that memes, anything you want to look at. The traditional used car salesman smoking a cigarette, trying to sell you a 1992 Yugo for $26,000. There is some truth to the fact that nobody likes bad salespeople. But once we start to say that nobody likes salespeople, and this is a belief a lot of times that other people have, you're just saying people don't like salespeople. That's not the general experience of the world. Actually, there's a lot of people that love salespeople. I'm married to one. She loves me. But this belief that people dive into can cause salespeople, they behave defensively and self-protective, right? And so getting rid of some of those beliefs, how I do that is I tend to teach that sales is a noble profession when done right, because it is. We're leading, we're serving, we're wayfinding. It's an absolutely incredible, noble profession that helps. Look around you. Everything has been sold. If you help someone do that in a good way and buy in a good way, you are doing them a service, right? So, but people that hold on to this belief, and you can see it even in people that are in sales, dive in, coach, help, right? Because it's not a truth, and it's not a universal truth. And it's something that absolutely limits sellers. And the third one I'll talk about here, a belief about others, is that people are logical, and that buyers are logical. And if I just make a case, they're going to, and the case is airtight, they're going to buy. If you've been in sales for any length of time, that's ridiculous. It's not true. The final decision is not generally the one that is completely logical. In fact, it's often the one that drives that emotional connection and makes that becomes the emotional favorite first, that is able to then make the logical connection more effectively. But a lot of times salespeople, especially newer salespeople, come into the world with that. Well, they see it as a I solve these three things. I solve this for less than the competitor. I built the business case. They should buy. And they leave out half of sales because they believe that. So those are three, common limiting beliefs that salespeople have about others, right? That they're logical. Now, beliefs about the world. I'm going to come up with, I'm going to do two of these. And the first one, and this isn't from the paper, but the first one is that there are three taboo topics: money, politics, and religion. And so those three, the world has tried to reinforce those taboo topics for a long time: money, politics, and religion. The very interesting thing is, when done right, those topics are some of the topics that can bring us closer to anybody in the world. And the topics extend to other things, like it's not okay to talk about family, or it's not okay to talk about, it. So we end up talking about or trying to connect on things like the weather, which the weather's the weather. It's hot somewhere, it's cold somewhere, but having these ideas that there are taboo topics. Maybe you do need to understand the people you're talking to, and you do need to dive in and probe well enough. But if you go into a situation and you absolutely believe that there are topics that are completely off limits, and you don't know that for a fact, you are limiting yourself. You're limiting yourself to relationships that are smaller. If it's about not talking about budgets or money, you're limiting yourself to being honest up front about your value and what you provide and understanding what they're going to pay. And so take away the fact, like beliefs about the world. It is very helpful for a salesperson to come with those taboo topics kind of wiped off. And then each and every relationship, as you dive in, start to talk about the things that are, start to dive in deeper with people. Another one that kind of goes along with that, go along with it, but that is a sister to that, is that we're not able to have fun in sales. We're not able to have fun and go deep in sales. Because I'm a salesperson, people don't want to go deep or have fun or understand or dive in. I've had conversations in sales that were scheduled for 15 minutes, last 3 hours. And it's a wonderful thing. And they're fun, and we're laughing, and we're making jokes, and we're being ourselves. It's fantastic. And so the belief that it's, you simply can't do that in sales is something that I hear a lot. And it always comes couched out in this, well, I need to be professional. And I would say absolutely 100% in sales, you have to be professional. Don't show up on a call smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer, 15 minutes late, commenting about somebody's mother. That is not a good thing. But have some fun. Enjoy yourself. Go deep. And it's something that limiting belief, if that's stopping you, and if you have a belief about the world that people just, it's just business. People don't want to have fun in business. They don't want to have fun in sales. They don't want my true nature in sales. You're selling yourself short. Anyhow, limiting beliefs. Great topic. If you're a sales coach, if you're a salesperson, sales leader, dive in, understand more about the limiting beliefs that are holding your team back, holding you back, and see what you can do with it, right? First thing to do is kind of uncover it. Second thing to do is challenge it. Third thing to do is move forward. All right. With that, I will sign off for today from the Art and Science of Complex Sales. This is Paul Fuller. Thank you so much for coming, for listening. I hope this was helpful to you. We'll make sure that the link to the paper is below. And with that, keep shining bright. Have an absolutely amazing day.